What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and here we are with our weekly view of the biggest movers and shakers on TCG Player. And you all know how excited I get for this list because first and foremost, this is information that is coming directly from TCG Player. And when you think about it, besides eBay, the TCG Player website is the second largest platform when it comes to buying and selling Pokemon cards. So anytime they give us a look behind the curtains and they share what is exactly going on, I think that's incredibly relevant, and it gives us just a glimpse into what's going on in the hobby. The other thing I love about this is a weekly view, so these are cards that are currently hot, currently on the move, and I get really excited about that. And the third and final thing is I love the diversity of this list, right? I love the fact that it has all kinds of different eras. There's Sword and Shield, there's Sun and Moon, there's Scarlet and Violet, right? We've got collectible cards, investable cards, we've got cards that are driven by playability, and everything about this list gets me all kinds of fired up, and that is why I have made it a Sunday staple here on the PikaPikaPapa channel. So we're going to get into this, and I'm telling you right now, this list, as with all of the other ones, is really cool because not only are we going to see some cards that are going up in price, but we're also going to see some cards that are starting to come back down a little bit. Remember, like this movers and shakers, it can go up, it can come down, but at the end of the day, what this list is saying is, hey, these are some cards that we should be keeping an eye on. So with all that out of the way, I got to give my selfless plug. If you have never subscribed to this channel and you've been watching it, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. We do fun stuff like this all the time. We'd love for you to become a member, and also, if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, and if you have questions or comments, drop them down below. So now let's get into this list, and I'm really excited for the very first card that's on here because this is the Roaring Moon EX from Paradox Rift, and we've talked about this card a lot, but the context in which we've talked about this card was the fact that it came out, it did the Pokemon pop and flop, right? It went up, it immediately came back down, but what we didn't see was it continue to drop. It found a heavy support line in the $55 range very early on, and it has been holding that line steady, and that was one of the things that I was super excited about because you don't traditionally see that with brand new cards from brand new sets. So it was fascinating to see the market just really support this at that $55 mark for as long as it has. Well, guess what? It is supported there no longer, okay? Because over the last week, it has jumped all the way up to $60, and this is a really interesting trend that I'm going to keep an eye on. Paradox Rift, I think, is flying a little bit under the radar. I think, you know, Twilight Masquerade obviously is the big dog right now, and then you got Temporal Forces, and obviously I'm super excited about Surging Sparks that's coming back out. So it's going to be interesting to see where Paradox Rift, you know, kind of in the grand scheme of things, ends up being. But to see this Roaring Moon card that was so flat for so long take a spike here over the last week is really interesting, and I thought that was super exciting, and I was loving that I could call this out as the very first slide. Now, as much as I love calling this out, I love calling this next one out even more because I am such a huge Gengar fan. Now, this card was actually on the list almost a month ago because, as you can see, it was just kind of steady Eddie going along. It was good, doing some serious gains, right? It was growing, but then all of a sudden we saw this spike. So, of course, it was on the list, and we said, hey, listen, on TCG Player, when you see these incredible spikes like this, a lot of time that's a buyout. So buyer beware, use some caution. This might not organically hold on. But then for the next couple weeks, it actually stayed flat up there at almost $100. So I started to think to myself, maybe this wasn't just a buyout. Like, it's from Team Up. Team Up is the biggest and baddest set from the Sun and Moon era, so maybe it's truly the market just understanding, hey, this card's been undervalued for so long, and it shot up to $100, and it held there for a couple weeks. Well, it's coming back down. It's coming back down big time. As you can see, it is almost flat to where it was pre-spike. Pre-spike, it was at $55. Now it's at $60, and I will say it is starting to hold that line a little bit, but if you think about how this card has performed over the last year, a year ago, this was a $32 card, a huge name like Gengar, an awesome tag team card from an amazing set like Team Up a year ago was only $32. That's incredible to me. Then at the beginning of this year, it had worked its way up to $40, and then pre-spike, as I said, from January until, you know, the middle of August, this thing was sitting at $55, and now it's coming back down. But even though it's coming back down, it's still up $60. So if you take that little big spike and subsequent fall out of there and you just trend line it out over the last year, really steady, really consistent growth for this card, and I think that's reflective of how awesome this card is, truly. Gengar, Team Up, not sure what more you need, and it is really exciting to see just kind of this organic growth that it's had over this period of time. The next card on this list, okay, so as you know, I do era videos on this channel. I look at Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, XY, and Scarlet and Violet once a month in its totality, is the whole era. We look at the top 20 singles cards, we look at the booster boxes, we look at how they're moving, just to keep our finger on the pulse of how things are trending at a more macro level versus just these individual cards, because in my mind, I care more about the health of the hobby than individual cards. So that's why we do that. But the last couple months, actually really for quite a while now, as we've done that view from Scarlet and Violet, Scarlet and Violet base set has just been getting its tail kicked, which is not different from what's been going on from a single cards perspective for Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield base sets, right? Like if you look at them, the top 20 singles cards in Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon, and also now Scarlet and Violet base sets, they just don't carry a lot of weight. Matter of fact, this Gardevoir is now the #1 card in Scarlet and Violet base. It has overtaken the Miriam, and we saw the same thing happen in Sun and Moon not long ago, right? Like you have the Marnie card, and the Marnie card was overtaken by the Snorlax card. But what's interesting for me is over the last week, this card did spike up in price a little bit, and you can see in June this card actually spiked up to $35, was working its way back down, and then again over the last week this thing spiked up. Now we have had Worlds, right, from a TCG perspective, so I don't know if that's driving the price of this card up at all. It could be, but it's interesting. I think the base sets need to have some kind of, I don't know, some kind of pizzazz to it, and I don't know if this card is pizzazzy enough to drive Scarlet and Violet, you know, to future gains down the road, but it is exciting to see at least that it's come up a little bit over the last week. Next card on the list right here. There was a point in time where I decided, I was like, hey, listen, we talk about trainer cards all the time, and they're always the female trainers, so let's give the dudes some love. And I was like, I want to do a video on male trainers, and I went through this exercise behind the scenes for like a week where I was trying to find some cards and some trends, and I ended up giving up because there is no love, or at least not a lot of love, for dude trainers out there. So as soon as I saw this Giovanni's Charisma card on the list for the biggest movers and shakers on TCG Player over the last week, I had to call it out. I mean, 151 is an absolute monster of a set, and this is certainly not anywhere close to a top 20 card from the set, but it has seen some really good price gains over the last year, and even since March, and especially over the last week, you'll see that it spiked up and kind of flattened out there, and you see that the volume there, the light blue bars right there, is the total volume of for how many of these cards are buying and selling. So obviously this card has been selling with high velocity, as you can see on the graph on the far right. That's the 100 mark, and you see lots of these are selling week over week, like 100 a week. So really interesting. Again, card probably not driven by long-term collectability or long-term investability, but when you have the opportunity to call out a unique card from an awesome set like 151, I am going to take that every single time. So super cool to see this card on the list, and awesome to see that it is getting a little bit of love. Good for you, Giovanni. I absolutely love it. And the final card that we're going to talk about, and I thought this was really interesting and a great example of playability driving card value here in the space, is the Regidrago, right? And this is from Silver Tempest. And this was the #1 deck that's been played for quite a while now. It has that really cool Apex Dragon skill right there, and it's got a neat ability in there. So I don't know too much about the TCG game. I've been very transparent with that. I am on the collecting and investing side. I don't play the game, but I thought this was awesome. I mean, this was a sub $1 card all the way until June of this year, and then all of a sudden this card became the card to play, and you'll see that it spiked all the way up there, and it has been holding steady. It's still at $12.68, all the way up from a 75-cent card, and it just, for me, this encompasses everything that I love about the hobby, how there's so many different ways for so many people to enjoy it. You can play the game, you can collect it for fun, you can use it as an investment tool. I do a combination of collecting and investing, right? Like, I only invest in it because I think it's so cool and so much fun, and I really enjoy collecting it. So being able to tie my hobby with something that also gives me the opportunity for long-term capital appreciation, like what more do you want in life? For me, it checks all of those boxes, and I absolutely love that this card was on the list. I love the fact that this card went from totally nondescript, nobody cared about it, 75-cent card, all the way up to a $12 card, because this thing is just crushing the game as it sits right now. So really exciting, and this list didn't have all of the big thunder and the big collectible and big investable cards that it typically does, but for me, the uniqueness of this list made it really special, and I was so pumped to put this video together for you guys. You all have an epic one. I appreciate you so much for watching. I can't ever say that enough, and if you made it to the end and you enjoyed the content, think about hitting that subscribe button, giving us a thumbs up, and dropping a comment down below. Those 3 small things go a long way in helping my small channel out, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You guys have an epic one. I'll talk to you soon. See you, everybody. Bye.